Jake Morrison thought his wife was just different. Luna had strange habits that other people might find weird, but Jake loved her anyway. She always checked the front door 3 times before bed. She knew when storms were coming days before the weatherman said anything. She could speak 7 languages perfectly, which was amazing for someone who worked as a translator. They lived in a small house in Colorado. Jake worked at the local college teaching history. Luna worked from home, translating documents for different companies around the world. Their life was quiet and peaceful. Jake thought he was the luckiest man alive. Luna was beautiful in a way that made people stop and stare. She had silver hair that seemed to shine in any light. Her eyes were a strange blue color that looked almost purple sometimes. Her skin was always perfect, never a single mark or scar. Jake used to joke that she looked like she came from another world. Tonight felt different, though. Jake was getting ready for bed when Luna walked into their bedroom. She looked scared, which was strange because Luna never looked scared of anything. She sat down on the bed next to him and took his hands in hers. "Jake, we need to talk about something important," she said. Her voice was shaking a little. Jake looked at her face. Her strange blue eyes looked worried. "What's wrong? Did something happen at work?" Luna shook her head. "No, it's not about work. It's about me. And it's about you. And it's about everyone on this planet." Jake felt confused. "I don't understand." "What do you mean?" Luna stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars for a long moment. When she turned back to face Jake, she looked like she was about to cry. "I'm not who you think I am, Jake. I'm not from Earth." Jake laughed because he thought she was making a joke. Very funny. "What are you really trying to tell me?" But Luna didn't laugh. She looked more serious than Jake had ever seen her. "I'm not joking. I'm from a planet called Zephyr. It's very far away from here. I came to Earth 3 years ago on a mission." Jake stopped laughing. Something in Luna's voice told him she was telling the truth. But it was impossible. People from other planets only existed in movies and books. "That's crazy," Jake said. "You're my wife. We met at the university. You're from Denver." Luna shook her head sadly. "No, Jake, I created that story. I had to have a background that people would believe. I studied human culture for months before I came here. I learned how to act like a human woman." Jake felt like the room was spinning. "This isn't real. You're having some kind of breakdown." Luna walked to their closet and moved some clothes aside. Behind them was a small metal device that Jake had never seen before. It was about the size of a phone, but it glowed with a soft blue light. "This is a communication device from my home world," Luna said. "I use it to send reports back to my people about what I learn here on Earth." Jake stared at the device. It looked like nothing he had ever seen before. The blue light seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "Reports about what?" Jake asked quietly. "About humans. About how you think, how you act, how you solve problems. My people sent me here to study your species." Jake felt sick to his stomach. "So our whole marriage is fake? You were just studying me like a lab rat?" Luna's eyes filled with tears. "It started that way. But Jake, I fell in love with you. Real love, that wasn't supposed to happen. I was supposed to stay distant and just observe. But you made that impossible." Jake didn't know what to believe. Everything Luna was saying sounded insane. But he had always known she was different. All those strange little things about her suddenly made sense. "Why are you telling me this now?" Jake asked. Luna's face went pale. "Because my people just sent me a message. Earth is in danger. There's a group of alien governments called the Hegemony Council. They think humans are too dangerous to be allowed to live." "Dangerous? We're just people living our lives." "That's exactly what makes you dangerous," Luna said. "Humans advance too fast. You solve problems too quickly. You never give up when things get hard. Other alien species took hundreds of thousands of years to develop space travel. Humans did it in less than 100 years. Jake felt his head spinning. "So what does that mean?" Luna sat back down next to him. Her hands were shaking now. "It means they're coming to destroy Earth, all of it. Every human. They call it preventive sterilization." The words hit Jake like a punch to the stomach. "When?" "The fleet is already on its way. They're hiding behind what looks like a group of asteroids. They'll be here in 6 months. Jake stood up and started pacing around the room. "This is insane. You're telling me that aliens are coming to kill everyone on Earth because we're too smart. Not too smart. Too unpredictable. Too dangerous when cornered. Humans do things that other species consider impossible." Jake stopped pacing and looked at his wife, the woman he thought he knew. The woman who wasn't even human, what happens now? He asked. Luna looked out the window again. I don't know. I was supposed to complete my mission and leave before the fleet arrived. But I can't leave you. I won't leave you. So we run away? Hide somewhere? There's nowhere to run, Jake. When the hegemony decides to sterilize a planet, they don't leave survivors. Jake felt anger building inside him. So that's it? We just wait to die? Luna looked at him with those strange blue eyes. There might be another way. But it would be incredibly dangerous. And it would mean going against everything my people believe about humans. What do you mean? My people think humans are dangerous because you never surrender. You always fight back even when you can't win. Maybe that's exactly what we need to do. Jake sat back down on the bed. 6 months ago, his biggest worry was whether the college would give him tenure. Now his wife was telling him she was an alien and that Earth was about to be destroyed. I need time to think about this, Jake said. Luna nodded. I understand. But Jake, we don't have much time. And there are things about humans that even you don't know. Things that might save your world or doom it forever. Jake looked at the strange glowing device in Luna's hands. Everything in his life had just changed forever. But as he looked at his wife, he realized one thing hadn't changed at all. He still loved her. Jake didn't sleep that night. He sat in his kitchen drinking coffee and staring at Luna's communication device. The blue light kept pulsing like it was alive. Luna sat across from him, watching his face carefully. I know this is hard to believe, Luna said softly. Hard to believe? Jake laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. My wife just told me she's an alien spy and that Earth is going to be destroyed. Hard doesn't begin to cover it. Luna reached across the table and touched his hand. I want to show you something. Something that might help you understand why the hegemony is so afraid of humans. She picked up the device and pressed something on its surface. Suddenly, the air above the kitchen table filled with moving pictures made of light. Jake jumped back in his chair. Don't worry, Luna said. It's just a hologram. Like a movie, but in 3 dimensions. The pictures showed a planet covered in blue oceans and green continents. It looked beautiful and peaceful. This is Quilar Prime, Luna explained. The Quilari were the first species the hegemony encountered after they formed their alliance. Watch what happened when the Quilari faced their first major crisis. The pictures changed to show the planet again, but now huge meteors were falling from the sky. Cities were burning. Jake could see tiny figures running in panic. A meteor shower threatened to destroy their civilization, Luna continued. This is how they responded. Jake watched as the tiny figures gathered in large groups. They seemed to be praying or meditating. They weren't fighting back or trying to stop the meteors. They just accepted what was happening. They believed it was their fate, Luna said sadly. Most of their population died. It took them 50,000 years to rebuild their civilization to its previous level. The hologram changed again. Now it showed a different planet with strange purple plants and silver cities. This is the Metamorphic Collective's homeworld. They're shapeshifters who can become anything they want. When their sun started dying, they had thousands of years to prepare. Jake watched as the silver figures slowly changed their bodies to survive in space. They were abandoning their planet instead of trying to save it. They adapted themselves to live without a planet rather than try to save their world or find a new one, Luna explained. It worked, but they gave up everything that made them who they were. Okay, so other aliens give up when things get bad, Jake said. What does that have to do with humans? Luna pressed the device again. The hologram showed Earth, but from space. Jake could see the blue and green planet he called home. This is what happened when humans faced extinction-level events. The picture changed to show huge ice sheets covering most of the land. Jake realized he was looking at Earth during an ice age. Your ancestors were dying. Food was scarce. The cold was killing them. Most species would have given up. But watch what humans did instead. Jake saw tiny figures around fires, but they weren't just sitting there waiting to die. They were making tools. They were hunting. They were working together to survive something that should have killed them all. They invented new ways to hunt. They learned to make better tools. They discovered how to control fire more effectively. Instead of accepting death, they changed themselves and their environment to survive. The hologram showed more scenes from human history. People building boats to cross impossible oceans, scientists working to cure deadly diseases, engineers building machines to fly through the air. Every time humans face something impossible, you don't give up. You don't adapt to accept it. You find a way to beat it or change it. Jake stared at the images floating above his table. But that's normal. That's what anyone would do. Luna shook her head. No, Jake, that's what makes humans unique in the galaxy. Other species adapt to their environment. Humans adapt their environment to fit them. She pressed the device again. Now the hologram showed charts and numbers that Jake couldn't understand. The Quillari took 50,000 years to develop spaceflight. The Metamorphic Collective took 200,000 years. The Zephyrians took 300,000 years. She pointed to a small number at the bottom of the chart. Humans developed spaceflight in less than 100 years after achieving powered flight. You went from riding horses to landing on your moon in just over 60 years. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. So we learn fast. That's not dangerous. It's not just that you learn fast. It's how you respond when someone tries to stop you. Luna's voice was getting quieter. I've been studying human psychology for 3 years. I've read every war in your history. Every time humans are told something is impossible, you prove it's not. Every time someone tries to destroy you, you become stronger. The hologram changed to show battle scenes from Earth's history. Jake saw armies fighting against impossible odds. He saw scientists working on problems everyone said couldn't be solved. He saw ordinary people doing extraordinary things when their backs were against the wall. This is what terrifies the hegemony, Luna said. Not your technology, not your weapons, your attitude. You have a saying on Earth, don't corner a wild animal. The hegemony has learned to fear cornered humans more than anything else in the galaxy. Jake was starting to understand. They think if they attack us, we'll fight back harder than they expect. It's worse than that. They think you'll find a way to win, or at least make victory so costly that they'll regret attacking you. Luna pressed the device one more time. The hologram showed spaceships unlike anything Jake had ever imagined. They were massive and covered in weapons. This is the hegemony fleet coming to Earth. Each ship carries enough firepower to destroy a city. There are 500 ships in the fleet. Jake felt his stomach drop. How can we possibly fight that? According to every computer model the hegemony has run, you can't. According to every piece of logic in the galaxy, Earth should surrender the moment these ships appear. But the hegemony has studied human history. They know humans don't surrender even when they should. Luna turned off the device. The kitchen returned to normal, but Jake's world had changed forever. There's something else, Luna said quietly. Something I haven't told my superiors. Something that could either save Earth or doom it completely. What? In my 3 years studying humans, I've discovered something that no other alien species has. Humans can inspire other species to be more than they thought possible. You made me question everything I believed about duty and loyalty. Jake looked at his wife's face. For the first time since she'd started talking, she looked hopeful. I'm not the only one, Luna continued. There are other agents on Earth, other aliens sent to study humans, and many of them have had the same experience I have. We came here to observe. Instead, we've been changed. Changed how? We've started thinking like humans. We've started believing that impossible things might be possible. We've started caring about outcomes beyond our own survival. Jake felt something shift inside him. Fear was being replaced by something else, something that felt like determination. You're talking about rebellion, he said. Luna nodded. I'm talking about something that has never happened in galactic history. I'm talking about aliens choosing to side with humans against their own species. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the world looked exactly the same as it had yesterday. But everything was different now. What would we need to do? He asked. We'd need to contact the other agents who have gone native. We'd need to find a way to warn Earth's governments without causing panic. And we'd need to prepare for a war that most people would say we can't win. Jake turned back to face Luna. But humans don't accept can't win, do they? Luna smiled for the first time since she'd started telling him the truth. No, they don't. That's exactly what I'm counting on. The next morning, Luna made a call that would change everything. She used her communication device to contact her handler on Zephyr. Jake watched as she spoke in a language that sounded like music mixed with wind chimes. When she finished, her face was pale. What did they say? Jake asked. Commander Vex wants me to return home immediately. He says my mission is complete and they need to extract me before the hegemony arrives. Are you going? Luna looked at the device in her hands. I told him I needed more time to finish my final report. But Jake, I think they suspect something. There were questions about my loyalty that have never been asked before. That afternoon, Luna's device started glowing urgently. When she answered, the voice coming from it sounded angry and scared. Agent Luna, this is an emergency transmission. Your cover has been compromised. Hegemony agents have infiltrated our command structure. They know about agents who have become emotionally attached to their subjects. You and your husband are both marked for elimination. Luna dropped the device like it was on fire. We have to run now. But Jake surprised her. Instead of panicking, he sat down calmly at their kitchen table. No, running won't solve anything. If they can find us once, they can find us again. Jake, you don't understand. They have technology that can track us anywhere on this planet. Then we don't hide. We fight back. Luna stared at her husband. 3 years of studying human psychology had prepared her for many things, but she was still amazed by how quickly humans could shift from shock to determination. Fighting back means contacting the other agents. Are you ready for that? Jake nodded. Make the calls. Luna activated an emergency protocol she had hoped never to use. Within hours, they received responses from 3 other agents scattered across North America. The first to arrive was Dr. Maya Chen. She looked like a normal woman in her 30s, but when she shook Jake's hand, her grip was stronger than any human's should be. I've been working as a marine biologist in California, Maya explained. My real specialty is xenobiology. I've been studying how different species adapt to new environments. And, Jake asked, humans adapt faster and more completely than any species I've ever documented. You don't just survive in new environments, you remake them to suit your needs. The second agent was Alex Rivera, who arrived driving a car that looked normal but sounded like nothing Jake had ever heard before. I've been running a tech startup in Silicon Valley, Alex said. My cover was perfect because I could introduce alien technology slowly and make it look like normal human innovation. Alex opened a briefcase filled with devices that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. I've been reverse engineering our technology and giving it to human inventors. They take our designs and improve them in ways we never thought possible. The third agent arrived after dark. Commander Ben Taylor looked exactly like a retired Air Force pilot, which is what he claimed to be. But when he spoke, there was something in his voice that made Jake think of distant stars. I've been Luna's emergency contact for 2 years, Ben explained. My job was to observe human military tactics and assess Earth's defensive capabilities. What did you find? Jake asked. Ben smiled grimly. I found that human military thinking is completely insane by galactic standards. You use strategies that shouldn't work. You take risks that no rational species would take. And somehow you win battles you should lose. Luna looked around the room at her fellow agents. We all know why we're here. We all know what choosing to help humanity means for us. Maya nodded. My people will consider me a traitor, Alex sighed. My government will hunt me for the rest of my life. Ben straightened his shoulders. My species has never had a deserter before. I'll be the first. Jake felt the weight of what these beings were giving up for humanity. Why? Why are you willing to sacrifice everything for a species you were sent to study? Maya spoke first. Because in 3 years of studying human adaptation, you've taught me that change isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace, Alex pointed to his briefcase. Because human innovation has shown me that there's always a better way, even when you think you've found the perfect solution. Ben crossed his arms. Because human courage has taught me that some things are worth fighting for, even when you can't win. Luna took Jake's hand. And because human love has shown me that loyalty based on choice is stronger than loyalty based on duty. Over the next few weeks, the group began planning something that had never been attempted in galactic history. They would prepare Earth for a war against vastly superior technology by using humanity's greatest strength, the ability to turn disadvantages into advantages. Maya began working with human scientists, guiding their research toward breakthroughs that would normally take decades to achieve. She claimed to be sharing new techniques she had developed, but really she was helping humans understand alien science. Alex started mass-producing technologies that seemed like natural human inventions, but were actually simplified versions of alien designs. He focused on manufacturing and communication systems that could be built quickly with Earth's existing resources. Ben began training military leaders in tactics specifically designed to fight opponents with superior technology. He presented these as theoretical exercises based on computer simulations, but really he was teaching them how to fight the hegemony. Luna worked with Jake to identify which human governments could be trusted with the truth. They needed allies in power who could coordinate a global response without causing worldwide panic. But as they worked, they discovered something troubling. The hegemony had been monitoring Earth's communications for years. They knew about human military capabilities, population centers, and government structures. They think they know everything about us, Jake said during one of their planning meetings. That's exactly right, Ben replied. And that's going to be their biggest mistake. What do you mean? Maya asked. Jake had been thinking about this for days. They know about our militaries and our governments. But they don't know about our people. They don't understand what humans do when their families are threatened. Alex looked interested. Explain. Every alien species you've told me about responds to threats through official channels. Governments make decisions. Militaries follow orders, but humans don't work that way. Luna was beginning to understand. You're talking about civilian resistance. I'm talking about 8 billion people who won't go quietly. The hegemony is planning to fight Earth's armies. They're not planning to fight Earth's people. Ben smiled. You want to turn the entire planet into a resistance movement. Not want to. Need to. Because that's what humans do when someone tries to destroy their world. We don't just fight back with our armies. We fight back with everything we have. Maya looked thoughtful. That could work. But it would require coordination on a scale that has never been attempted. Lucky for us, Jake said. Humans are really good at doing things that have never been attempted before. Over the following months, the network grew. Other alien agents who had gone native made contact. Human government officials were carefully brought into the secret. Plans were made and resources were gathered, but Jake kept thinking about something Luna had said on that first night. Humans were dangerous because they never accepted that something was impossible. As he watched his wife and her fellow aliens risk everything to help save humanity, Jake realized they had already proven something impossible was actually true. They had proven that love and loyalty could cross the barriers between species. And if that was possible, then maybe saving Earth was possible too. The hegemony fleet was still months away, but Jake was no longer afraid. He was angry, and if there was one thing the galaxy should fear, it was an angry human who refused to give up. The first breakthrough came from Maya's work with human scientists. She'd been carefully guiding a team at MIT toward understanding quantum mechanics in a way that would help them detect approaching alien ships. What she didn't expect was for the humans to take her hints and develop something completely new. They've created a detection system that's better than anything my people have, Maya reported to the group. I showed them the basic principles and they improved on them in ways I never imagined. Jake watched the excitement in Maya's eyes. This keeps happening, doesn't it? You show humans something and they make it better. It's more than that, Maya said. They ask questions I never thought to ask. They see connections I never noticed. Working with human scientists has made me a better scientist. Alex was having similar experiences with human engineers and inventors. His plan to slowly introduce alien technology had turned into something much more ambitious. I thought I would give them simple versions of our tools, Alex explained. Instead, they've used my ideas as starting points for technologies that surpass what my people have created. Ben's work with military leaders was producing equally impressive results. Human generals and strategists were developing battle plans that seemed chaotic to alien thinking, but had a strange internal logic. They don't think like any military force in the galaxy, Ben reported. They plan for scenarios that seem impossible. They prepare for victories and defeats at the same time. They have backup plans for their backup plans. But the real breakthrough came when Jake suggested they test human response to crisis scenarios. The network created a series of exercises for government officials who had been brought into the secret. We need to see how human leadership responds under pressure, Jake had argued. Not just individuals, but entire systems working together. What they discovered amazed even Luna, who had been studying humans for years. When presented with the scenario of an alien invasion, human governments didn't panic or collapse. Instead, they began coordinating in ways that had never been seen before. Military resources were shared between traditional enemies. Scientific knowledge was exchanged freely. Manufacturing capabilities were linked across continents. They're treating this like a puzzle to be solved, Luna observed. Not a disaster to be survived. Jake watched the reports coming in from around the world. In just a few months, humanity had begun the largest mobilization in its history. Advanced manufacturing was ramping up. International cooperation was reaching unprecedented levels. Technology sharing between nations that had been enemies for decades was becoming routine. The most amazing part was that it all looked natural. To outside observers, it seemed like Earth was responding to a series of economic and environmental challenges. The real preparations for alien invasion were hidden within normal human activities. The hegemony is watching, Luna warned. Their long-range sensors are monitoring Earth's communications and activities. They can see the increased coordination, but they think it's just typical pre-contact panic. Perfect, Jake said. Let them think we're panicking. It will make them overconfident. As the months passed, Jake began to understand his own role in the larger plan. Luna's reports about him hadn't just been intelligence gathering. They had been a detailed psychological study of how humans respond to impossible situations. You were my test case, Luna admitted one evening. My superiors wanted to understand how humans react when faced with information that challenges everything they believe. And what did you tell them? I told them that humans have an unusual response to impossible scenarios. Instead of rejecting the information or becoming paralyzed by fear, you immediately start looking for solutions. Jake thought about this. That's what you've all been doing too. You came here as observers, but when you learned about the invasion, you immediately started looking for ways to prevent it. Luna smiled. You've been teaching us to think like humans without realizing it. The network had grown to include dozens of alien agents and hundreds of human officials. But they all understood that the real test would come when the hegemony fleet arrived. They expect us to surrender when we see their ships, Ben explained during one of their planning sessions. Every species in galactic history has surrendered when faced with overwhelming force. But humans don't surrender, Maya added, even when they should. Especially when they should, Alex corrected. Jake had been thinking about this for weeks. There's something we need to consider. When the fleet arrives, they're going to broadcast a surrender demand. Every human on Earth will know that aliens exist and that we're being invaded. That's always been part of the plan, Luna said. Standard hegemony procedure is to give the target species a chance to surrender before beginning. Sterilization. Right. But what happens when 8 billion humans learn that aliens want to destroy their planet? The room went quiet as everyone considered this question. Ben spoke first. Based on human military history, I'd expect immediate mobilization of all available resources. Maya nodded. Human scientific communities would probably share all research immediately and focus entirely on defense technologies. Alex looked thoughtful. Human manufacturing would switch to military production faster than should be possible. Luna was beginning to understand. You're saying that the surrender demand will actually help humanity prepare for war. I'm saying that the hegemony doesn't understand what happens when you threaten human families, Jake replied. They think they're giving us a chance to avoid destruction. Really, they're giving us time to get really, really angry. Over the following weeks, the network put the final pieces of their plan into place. Communication systems were established between governments, militaries, and civilian populations. Manufacturing facilities were prepared to switch to defense production. Scientists around the world were ready to share research that had been developing in secret for months. Most importantly, they had prepared something the hegemony would never expect. A unified human response that treated the invasion not as an unstoppable force, but as a problem to be solved. There's one more thing, Jake said during their final planning meeting. When this starts, the hegemony is going to target you. All of you. They know who the alien agents are and they'll try to eliminate you first. Maya nodded grimly. We've accepted that risk. No, you don't understand, Jake continued. You're not just allies now. You're human allies. And humans have a very specific response when someone threatens their allies. Ben looked interested. What kind of response? Jake smiled, and for the first time since this all began, it wasn't a worried smile. It was the kind of smile that had been terrifying galactic civilizations for 3 years without them realizing it. We take it personally. The hegemony fleet was only weeks away now, hidden behind what looked like a natural asteroid field. 500 ships carrying enough firepower to crack a planet were approaching Earth. But they weren't approaching a helpless world full of primitive beings. They were approaching a planet full of humans who had been preparing for this fight for months. Humans who had learned alien technology and improved on it. Humans who had developed strategies specifically designed to fight technologically superior opponents. Most importantly, They were approaching a world full of humans who had just learned that someone wanted to kill their families. As Jake looked around the room at his allies, both human and alien, he realized that the hegemony had made one critical error in their planning. They had assumed that humanity's greatest weakness was their isolation. They thought humans would fight alone. Instead, they were about to discover that humanity's greatest strength was their ability to turn enemies into friends and friends into family. The invasion was about to begin, but Jake was no longer worried about whether humanity would survive. He was starting to worry about what humanity would do to the galaxy once they won. The day the hegemony fleet revealed itself, Jake was teaching his morning history class when every screen on Earth simultaneously displayed the same message. People of Earth, we are the Hegemony Council. Your species has been deemed a threat to galactic stability. You have one Earth rotation to surrender unconditionally. Failure to comply will result in planetary sterilization. Jake watched his students' faces change from confusion to shock to something he had never seen before. It wasn't fear. It was anger. Professor Morrison, one student said quietly, "Are we really going to let them do this to our planet?" Jake smiled. "What do you think we should do?" "Fight back," the student said without hesitation. "We're humans. We don't give up." Across the planet, the same conversation was happening 8 billion times. In every language, in every culture, humans were having the same basic response to the hegemony's ultimatum. The aliens had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had given humanity a common enemy. Within hours, the carefully prepared plans activated. Governments that had been secretly coordinating for months announced immediate alliance agreements. Military forces began sharing resources and intelligence. Scientists published research that had been developing in secret for half a year. But the most important change was happening at the civilian level. Ordinary people were volunteering for emergency services in numbers that overwhelmed official systems. Factories were retooling for military production without being asked. Engineers and inventors were submitting defense designs faster than anyone could review them. "This is incredible," Maya reported from her position coordinating with Earth's scientific community. "Human researchers are sharing decades of work freely. They're treating this like humanity's biggest collaborative project ever." Alex was equally amazed by what he was seeing in the manufacturing sector. Every major corporation on the planet has offered to convert their production to military purposes. They're doing it at cost with no concern for profit. Ben was watching something that challenged everything he thought he knew about military strategy. Earth's armed forces are coordinating like they've been training together for years. Traditional enemies are sharing their best tactics and technologies. But Jake was watching something even more significant. He was watching ordinary humans respond to an existential threat exactly the way Luna had predicted they would. They weren't accepting defeat. They were getting creative. The first engagement came sooner than anyone expected. A hegemony scouting force approached Earth to assess the planet's defenses. What they found confused them completely. Instead of the panicked, disorganized resistance they expected, they encountered coordinated defensive networks using technologies that shouldn't exist on Earth. Human fighters used tactics that seemed random, but proved devastatingly effective. Most confusing of all, the humans seemed to be enjoying themselves. "This is Scout Leader Crix reporting to Fleet Command. The transmission was intercepted by Luna's communication device. The humans are not responding according to any known patterns. They appear to be treating this engagement as a competitive sport." Jake laughed when he heard this. "They think we're playing games because we're having fun fighting back." The real battle began when the main hegemony fleet moved into Earth's orbit. 500 massive ships took position around the planet and began broadcasting demands for immediate surrender. The human response was not what they expected. Instead of surrender, they received a transmission from Earth that was broadcast simultaneously in dozens of languages. Jake recognized the voice as belonging to the Secretary General of the United Nations, but the words could have come from any human on the planet. To the hegemony fleet, "You have made 2 critical errors. First, you assumed that humanity would be afraid of you. Second, you assumed that we would be impressed by your technology. You are wrong on both counts. We are not afraid. We are angry, and we are very good at solving problems when we're angry." What followed was a battle unlike anything in galactic history. The hegemony had prepared for conventional warfare against a primitive species. Instead, They faced something that challenged every assumption about how intelligent beings respond to superior force. Human fighters didn't retreat when outnumbered. They regrouped and attacked from unexpected angles. Human defense systems didn't collapse when overwhelmed. They adapted and improved in real time. Human strategy didn't follow any recognizable pattern, because humans kept changing their approach based on what was working. Most disturbing to the hegemony was that humans seemed to learn from every engagement. Tactics that worked against human forces once became useless after the first attempt. Human technology improved during the battle, incorporating lessons from each skirmish. Fleet Command. This is Admiral Zorith. Another intercepted transmission revealed the growing concern among hegemony leadership. The humans are not behaving rationally. They continue fighting despite taking significant losses. Worse, they appear to be becoming more effective as the battle continues. But the real shock came when Zephyrian forces led by Commander Vex arrived in the system. Luna's people had come to extract their remaining agents and withdraw before the planet was sterilized. Instead, they found their agents fighting alongside humans against the hegemony fleet. Agent Luna. Commander Vex's transmission was filled with disbelief. Explain your current position immediately. Luna looked at Jake, who nodded encouragingly. She activated her communication device and broadcast a response that was heard by every ship in the system. Commander Vex, I am exactly where I choose to be, fighting alongside beings who have taught me that loyalty based on choice is stronger than loyalty based on duty. What happened next had never occurred in galactic history. Other Zephyrian agents began declaring their allegiance to humanity. Agents from other species followed. The battle became a three-way conflict as alien forces that had gone native engaged both human and hegemony ships. But the hegemony's ultimate shock came when Jake volunteered for a mission that should have been suicide. I want to be captured, Jake told the group. Someone needs to talk to their leadership directly. That's insane, Ben protested. They'll kill you immediately. No, they won't. They'll want to study me. I'm the human who corrupted their agents. They'll want to understand how I did it. Jake was right. When he allowed his fighter to be captured, he was brought directly to the hegemony command ship and presented to their leadership council. Standing before beings from a dozen different species, Jake delivered what became known throughout the galaxy as the Human Declaration. You came here to destroy us because you think we're dangerous. You're right, we are dangerous, but not in the way you think. Jake looked around the room at faces that belonged to species humanity had never known existed. You fear us because we don't accept limitations, because we fight back when we should surrender, because we adapt instead of accepting fate. But you're missing the most important thing about humans, and what is that? Asked the Hegemony Supreme Commander. We make others want to be better than they thought possible. Your own agents proved that. They came here to study us and ended up choosing to defend us. That's not corruption. That's inspiration. Jake pointed toward the viewing screen that showed the ongoing battle. Every species you've encountered has eventually stopped growing, stopped changing, stopped improving. You've built a galactic civilization based on staying the same forever, but humans don't stay the same. We keep becoming more than we were. The Supreme Commander's translator device made his voice sound mechanical. Your point? My point is that you don't need to destroy us. You need us. Every civilization needs something to push it forward, to challenge it to grow. Humans are dangerous because we refuse to accept that anything is impossible, but that's exactly what your civilization needs to keep from becoming stagnant. Jake smiled at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. You can destroy Earth and eliminate the threat we represent, or you can take a risk and discover what humans might accomplish if we're your allies instead of your enemies. The battle continued for 3 more days, while the Hegemony Council debated Jake's proposal. During those days, human forces continued to demonstrate the very qualities that had made them seem dangerous. They refused to give up despite overwhelming odds. They continued to innovate and adapt throughout the conflict. Most importantly, they kept inspiring alien allies to fight harder and more effectively than those species had ever fought before. When the hegemony finally agreed to a ceasefire, it wasn't because they had defeated humanity. It was because they had begun to understand what Jake meant. The final agreement was unprecedented in galactic history. Humanity would be granted probationary membership in the galactic community. Luna and her fellow turned agents would serve as cultural liaisons, and Jake would become Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy. 6 months later, Jake stood in his new office aboard a space station orbiting Earth. Luna worked beside him as his senior advisor. Through the viewing port, he could see human ships working alongside alien vessels to build new defensive platforms. "Do you ever regret it?" Jake asked Luna. "Giving up your old life to save a bunch of dangerous humans?" Luna smiled and took his hand. "Jake, you taught me something important about the difference.